Borderlands 4. At this point, I'm 100% convinced that Borderlands 4 is gonna be a woke shit mess. Everything I see is just pointing in that direction. Now, granted, there may be something happens and we're lucky, and it's gonna be a clear, obscure Expedition 33 situation. But I said this game probably is just gonna be okay. It's gonna be midish, not in the bad way that you call things mid, but it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be okay. But no, we got a masterpiece, right? But Borderlands 4, I give myself a roughly maybe like a 0.1% chance of being wrong. Everything that we have seen about Borderlands 4 currently looks like a red flag. There's two things that I actually like about the trailer, though. One is the graphical updates. Borderlands 3 already looked like it's some kind of Bethesda quality, 20 years outdated graphics style. This version of Borderlands looks more crisp, more clear, more good. Again, it's a unique style, but at least it doesn't look like shit, right? And the second one was the open maps. But everything that surrounded this seemed extremely bad. Very, 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 very extremely bad. One of the biggest obvious red flags about Borderlands 4 is the fact that if you saw this initial trailers and you now have seen all of this, you need to be blind or extremely woke to not notice that the first trailers that we had about this game had all character, even including the Norse Viking dude, they were black. And I mean super black, okay? And now some of them honestly almost look white, which is the most hilarious thing ever. The Riri Williams thing, okay? She looked like this previously, and then she looks like this. That's how that works, okay? That's how insane this is, and they pretty much did it for every single main character, which is hilarious. Because that signifies things. That signifies corruption mostly. And well, you can change that, but you can't change the storyline now, can you? And people were not exactly happy with the newest Borderlands storylines in general, so I don't think that's changing also.
So we just got our first official gameplay reveal for Borderlands 4 in a whopping 20-minute state of play presentation, and I gotta say, it's looking good. We got a much needed look at the game itself, what it's actually gonna look like when we play. I still love the way it looks. It looks very much like Borderlands 3, but looks more crisp, and that's probably just due to the new engine. Obviously, the whole point of this was
Yep. A lot of things do seem okayish for the minimum part, but again, when we get into the details, it's
to show off the gameplay, some of the new things that they're doing.
By the way, as far as I know, there are no real storyline beats, and I don't think we're gonna get any because it looks generic as fuck.
Haven't played Destiny in quite some time, but from when I did, it's reminding me a lot of it, especially from the more open world nature of things, the world events that can pop up, the fact that you can just summon
A huge good thing about this is that it looks like Borderlands is magically managing the concept of there being more than two, maybe if you're lucky, three enemies on screen at the time. That's actually a huge improvement because I think mass hordes are kind of more fun than one midget psycho running at you, honestly. But then maybe that's just me. And here's the first big red flag that I see. When I saw open worlds, I was like, "Ooh, that's pretty good, actually." But then I heard that you can instantaneously just summon this thing and just zoom around. And whenever you have a giant open world and you have something like this that just gives you speed, makes me think, oh, you design an open world, but it's kind of hollow and empty, and there's just a couple of points of interest. AKA, this is giving me not Witcher Wild Hunt vibes, but Diablo 4 vibes. And that's bad.
a vehicle. I cannot tell you how much I'm going to love that change. I love you, Scooter. I love you, Ellie. But I always have hated having to go to a catch-a-ride station to get a vehicle. And I'm sure this is going to be something like, oh, Ellie's been working on this new portable catch-a-ride type thing. Skill trees look massive, the whole gun parts from different manufacturers.
So one thing I don't actually understand is, um, so let's ignore the fact that she's now white or white adjacent at the minimum because that's hilarious by itself, right? Where's the fat siren? Because in the initial trailers, you can very, very, very distinctively see a siren that's probably a way of trumbulence is probably rolling because she's that fat. Where is that? I think this is supposed to be the same character, but she's not fat. So what's happening here?
The whole gun parts from different manufacturers. I'll be honest, I never really paid attention to that anyway. I just pick up the gun and I shoot. And I'm probably gonna do the same thing here. But these aren't what you're here to hear me talk about. What you want is the lore, the story, the characters. What new things did we learn? Did we learn new things? And the answer to that is yes. Quite a bit, actually. Probably the most important one and the one that I'm most excited about are learning about the characters. In the initial teaser, we just got a glimpse of them walking.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, look at her. Look at her. That is insanely. That is like 50 skin tones wider than previously. This guy also. This guy has a helmet, but he. Oh, wait. Actually. Boop 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 boop. Let's see. Borderlands 4. Okay. Wait, no, that's Brother and something. No. Borderlands 4. Okay, Borderlands 4 characters. Let's see. Okay, there it is. There it is. Okay, listen, boys. I'm gonna share the screen. Look at this. Okay, look at this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What is this? What? One more time? One more time? Damn, boy. Should I open Paint and use a pivot on them to see the difference in color right there? Because yeah, boy, I kind of feel it. I kind of feel it a lot. Yeah, obviously this is an absolute joke. Where's the fat siren though? That's the real question. But I do appreciate the futuristic, more Riri Williams glasses, and I love that their solution for every black character is just okay, let's go for the dreads at the end. Pathetic.
The characters. In the initial teaser, we just got a glimpse of them walking, which sparked a ton of unnecessary controversy because we got absolutely nothing about them, who they are, and didn't get that many clear shots of them. Overall, it was disappointing.
Well, I can tell you that secret kind of fast. They're diversity hires, obviously.
Not getting much of the thing most people are excited about.
Also, this was super cringe. Redfall summon black vampire boyfriend skill vibes right there, boys.
Which are the Vault Hunters. But now that has been mended, as now we know so much more about these four, including their names, backstories, and some of their abilities. So allow me to introduce each of the four characters. First and foremost, the one most Borderlands fans are probably excited for is the ever-classic Siren, and her name is Vex. Her backstory is that she had a rough upbringing that—
By the way, the fact that you need to put their backstories out like this instead of game already is, by the way, a giant red flag of, oh yeah, our stories for these characters are so poor, so bad that we needed to do this, because otherwise there's no lore, okay? When you're putting lore tidbits and snippets and things like this outside of the game, that instantaneously tells me you did a poor job making this character appealing in the game. No questions. Never. No excuses. No nothing.
was made more complicated by receiving her siren powers. Her cynical and sarcastic
Also, they completely butchered sirens. What's currently the lore status on sirens? Sirens. They can only be like 3 at the time or something like that?
demeanor comes from having to fend for herself and scrape for everything she's got. But underneath her salty exterior, Vex is an empath who knows better than anyone how
Yeah, what a dude. The fact that you summarized her story and unironically used the word goddamn empath is it's kind of killing me. I'm not gonna lie. It's literally kind of killing me here. Okay, that's a complete kill in my opinion. But hey, what am I supposed to say? Okay, these summarizations seem horrible. Okay, the way that this is structured and written makes me believe that the Zoomer wrote this.
much life can suck. Ever the pessimist, Vex still believes in helping others, and if helping others means dealing damage to oppressive jerks, Vex will always be first in line. It should come as no shock to anyone that Vex is the one I am most interested in out of the 4 because sirens are the linchpin to this franchise, and they're only becoming more and more important with each passing game. And I have a feeling they're going to be pretty damn important in this one. Funnily enough, despite seeing her powers, which I still have no idea how to describe them, I still cannot tell whose powers these are. Like, we've been left wondering if Vex possesses either Tyrene's power of the Phase Leech or Commandant Steele's mystery power, which literally we're working with 0 information on. However, I am pretty confident in saying that, unless they throw in a curveball, these have to be Steele's powers. Cause now, based on the snippet of backstory we've been given, it said she had the
health bar right there in the middle of the screen is so stupid. But that's a small change they can easily do, right?
powers since when she was younger, during her upbringing. We don't exactly know how old Vex is, but she has to be fairly young for that statement to make sense. And while I don't think it's been stated how long the time gap in between the events of Borderlands 3 and Borderlands 4 is going to be, it can't be that long. It can't be over a decade. It's probably just a few years at best, whereas Steele died at minimum 13 years ago. And I say minimum because that time frame is to the end of Borderlands 3, so 13 years plus how many more to the events of Borderlands 4. So if Vex is in her late teens, early 20s, and she got the powers when she was a child and not at birth, it adds up. The leading theory is that this could still be Emily Swan. This is who people thought she was prior to knowing her name and backstory. However, despite getting her name and backstory, it's not like that theory is just dead. There's no saying Vex is her real name.
I'm not sure about the theories, by the way. I don't really know too much about them. I don't know Borderlands lore that deep in. But again, will the lore be good? Well, ask Tina's tiny wonderland of cringe that question.
It could just be the name she goes by now. And since we were just talking about her age, that too still adds up. When she was a kid, Emily was dying until the Watcher saved her, which happened around the time of Steele's death. If you're looking at the imagery of her character and action skill, she has a lot of imagery of death. She has a Grim Reaper ability where she wields a scythe. Her wings are less
Yeah, I just think that that's because the people who made her tried to appeal to Zoomers, and I mean, edginess is a thing, I guess.
angelic and more demonic, like she's an angel of death. Siren powers are said to evolve and adapt to each person, and since being so close to death was such a
By the way, evolved and adapt to each person, then why are you asking which side and powers did she get?
pivotal point in Emily's life, who's to say it didn't manifest in evolving her siren powers? But the biggest hurdle, however, now with this theory is her attitude. For someone who is described as cynical and sarcastic and salty from knowing how much life sucks, That's a hurdle to believe Emily would be like that, considering how loving her mother was and how much she cared. Unless her mother, instantly died when they went to Pandora, and she had to live life alone and fend for herself right off the bat. Then her attitude and having to work for everything in her life would make sense. However, that is still just a theory. I don't want to push the Emily Swan theory too much. I know Epic NNG is fiending for this, but it's still just a theory, but one that I don't think is just gone away. Either way, I'm excited to learn more about Vex. The second new character is Rafa, who's classed as the exo-soldier. Rafa was born and raised in microgravity, which severely altered his bone density and musculature, making it impossible for him to survive elsewhere. Desperate to explore, he signed up to Tedior's military force. In exchange for a tour of duty, his body was altered for a new kind of exosuit. But when it became clear that Tedior never intended to end his service, Rafa went AWOL. Now, he's on the run and plans to enjoy whatever time he has left before his Tedior dead frame ends him for good. So
That's a lot, technically. What the hell?
Rafa is an ex-Tedior soldier. Now, initially when I read his backstory, I was very iffy on it because to me, it was very reminiscent of Wilhelm's backstory because Wilhelm had a very similar thing going on. He had bone
Well, that, to be honest, does explain everything.
waste, which made his bones very brittle. But he started getting cybernetic implants to make him stronger and enable him to be a
By the way, microgravity means there's not a lot of gravity, and in not a lot of gravity, your bones become weaker, and And by the way, it's not only your bones, your muscles atrophy because you don't need them anymore. So this is kind of a copy paste, technically, I guess.
badass. And Rafa has a very similar thing going on. His body is inherently weak and he's using technology to offset that and enable him. However, depending on how Borderlands 4's story goes, I think it still is very interesting as the characters in this game are going to play a more active role in the story than ever before. Typically in Borderlands fashion, the main characters are just there for color commentary and it never felt like we were included in things as they were happening. And it sure as hell never felt like they got any development over the course of the story. You always had to wait till the next game to get more out of the Vault Hunters you were playing. But it's looking like in this game they're trying to have the characters be more involved in the story and cutscenes. So to have someone who is dying can add a unique element to the whole thing. And unlike Wilhelm, Rafa hasn't solved his problem. He doesn't have a cybernetic implant addiction nor a desire to be a robot, at least for now. The next character is Harlowe as the gravitar?
Pathetic.
Harlowe is a former Maliwan combat scientist driven by the need to understand how things work. While this initially
God, you gotta love the Riri Williams trope, by the way. It's the only thing that exists. Why can't we get an overweight one, okay? Why can't we get that? And she does a lot of Why can't we get any of that, okay? Why is it just the Riri Williams shit constantly? This is boring. And why is there always a visor? I mean, at least this time they at least put the dreads in a thingamajig. So I guess that's like the peak of creativity here.
Made her an outcast
Funny.
amongst her Trant relatives, Harlowe has used her intellect to bring new tech and gadgetry to the battlefield as a Vault Hunter. Harlowe's brilliance is apparent in everything she does, but so is her enthusiasm and love for life. Harlowe brings everything to the fight, including her sunny disposition. Always ready to give a beatdown, her spirit can't be beat. So yes, you heard that right. Harlowe is a member of the Trant family. People were speculating this when they first saw her, as well as her being former Maliwan. I mean, at that point, you gotta give it to the designers. Her clothes really did evoke Maliwan and Trant vibes. So yeah, we're getting not one, but two ex-megacorporation soldiers. Typically, it's been one. Roland was Atlas, Axton was Dahl, Mose was Vladov, now Rafa is Tedior, and Harlowe is Maliwan. At this point, we got someone who's got a vendetta against every mega corporation. Her being a Trant, I'm sure, is going to be very fun. I'm sure she and Zane are going to have some pretty fun banter about their family members. But overall, we didn't learn much about her or what she could do. And the fourth and final Vault Hunter.
Is this going to be like Overwatch? One of the greatest things that Overwatch could have actually done as a game was go into the lore, the world building and shit. But Blizzard never did that because they kind of understood that every single Overwatch character is just a bunch of shitty stereotypes about something, okay? And it's just baseline whatever, okay? Diva, for example, is just a gamer girl, okay? Her most defining feature is that she's a gamer girl celebrity who doesn't have an off account, okay? That's her most defining characteristic. Then you have Echo, a dude who just does music. Wow. Every single Overwatch character is not even skin deep, okay? They're just some kind of one-dimensional thing chosen to be their whole personality. And honestly, currently what I'm hearing is making me kind of think, yeah, that seems about right. This seems to be about right as much as that.
Is Amon as the Forge Knight. Amon was raised in a vault monster worshipping cult until the vault was opened and the creature turned on everyone he loved.
Wow. I mean, we already covered the name Amon.
As the only survivor, he dedicates his life to finding and killing as many of these beasts as he can. Amon, a warrior poet, is introspective and unflinching to his duty, but despite his hardened appearance, he has a warm attitude, often regaling comrades in arms with stories.
Yeah, all of them are actually nice people because only nice people exist in the world. And this is also a modern day thing. Like, hearing this makes me think that, oh yeah, the story is just going to be a bunch of nice people and they're all going to be kind of misunderstood.
And advice earned throughout his travels. I do really like this backstory. It makes sense that there had to have been some cults out there worshipping vaults like they were gods. His appearance does match his backstory. I do wish he had less technology on him though. Like Rafa and Harlowe are already very tech-oriented, so I just wish he was more human all around, I guess, if that makes sense. But that's just me. He was someone we also didn't get much about, so I'm very interested to learn more about his cult and the supposed journeys that he went on. Realistically, this is how these four should have been introduced in the first place instead of just that teaser walk. It would have saved a lot of
he's not gonna show the teaser walk, is he?
Of unnecessary criticism.
That's the thing that I showed you.
Just getting their names, their backstories goes far, and now I'm excited to learn more about all of them.
Does it? Does it actually go far? All of this sounded super fucking generic. All of them are hardened life champions who went through trials and tribulations and problems, and they're all good people. That's what it sounds like. Okay, that's what it is. And the fact that that's four of the one template you're just using there, which is horrible. Two, well, shouldn't this be actually represented in the game through dialogue and action and shit, not just... They're effectively saying, okay, these characters are kind of fucking boring, but here's what you should believe about them. So here's their backstory. I think that's insanely stupid, honestly.
And see how they interact in the story and cutscenes. One of the other interesting things about this trailer is how they set up Kairos. They describe it as a planet that has purposely been hidden for thousands of years by the Timekeeper, all so he could control it and effectively rule over it the way he wanted to, I guess. The most shocking thing about it to me is how much more of a normal planet it is than I would have expected. I was kind of thinking its seclusion was done on purpose more because of the Iridians wanting to keep it hidden, as opposed to someone on the planet wanting to keep it hidden. And so now, by virtue of it being the latter, the planet itself has become much more normal, There's a ruler in the form of the Timekeeper. His army, the Order, rule over.
Now, what are we honestly thinking? Is genetic good in the case of a game that's gonna fail, or is genetic still bad in the case of a game that's gonna fail? What are we thinking here, boys?
Over the citizens that are just normal people living on the planet. Now, there's obviously probably going to be more nuance to it than just the Timekeeper having Omega OCD and wanting his perfect planet where he can keep everything organized the way he wants to. Like, what is he
Now, you see, the thing with that is like, really? Is there gonna be more nuance?
doing? Why is he doing it? Like, what is the purpose of it all is something we're probably going to have to find out when the game releases. But obviously, Nereid knew of the Timekeeper, so maybe she met
Okay, is Moxie different?
him before he hid the planet. Why would the Timekeeper not be in a vault? Why is he allowed to just be out and about? These are all questions we have to wait and see. Also, by virtue of this, we learn more about the inhabitants of the planet, like how they were all being controlled by the Timekeeper via cybernetic implants fused to their spines. So it would make sense that this is how
Misunderstood evil character that turns out to be your ally, by the way.
the Rippers came to be. If I had to guess, they are the ones who have ripped out their implants and joined together to fight back. Now that Elpis has crashed onto the planet and disrupted the
Oh, wait, maybe this is just gonna be your friendly faction from the beginning. I don't even know.
Timekeeper's perfect order, it has inspired others to embrace the chaos. So yeah, I don't think the Rippers are an opposing faction at all. In addition, we get a look at some of the new characters again, some new ones amongst them. The returning characters, we knew Zane was going to be in it, but now we see Moxie alongside him. Loving her new look, by the way. I'm not going to lie, her Borderlands 3 design was my least favorite by like a country mile. But we also get to see Amara. She quite literally got the highlight of this state of play. It makes sense, she is a siren and
Wait, is she the least liked siren out there? She is, right?
better she remains actively involved with the Crimson Raiders than to have to find her on a random planet again because they wrote her off as just wanting to do something else. She's still here. She's still involved in everything going.
Yay, very cool. Anyway, that's it. This is gonna be, well, probably less bad than the Borderlands movie, but I mean, eh. Anyway, that was Eruption of Fang. 10 out of 10. Bye.